Hey everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing the latest entry in the Predator series, and it's a film that, when it came out, it got mixed reviews from both fans and critics, which at the time when I first saw it I could see why, and after rewatching it I see even more why it got mixed reviews. I mean, out of our little group of friends, the only people that really liked it besides me when it first came out were Michael King and Aaron, even though we all liked it a little bit, but not as much as the previous two films. And I have to say my opinion on that really hasn't changed upon rewatching it. Although I hold it in less regard than I did before, I still enjoy the film for what it is, but I'll get into that after a bit. The movie is directed by Nimród Antal, which, one thing I want to know is who the hell names their kid Nimrod? What the heck? It's just a weird name. But anyway, I've only seen one of his other movies, and that was Vacancy, and I actually saw that movie in the theaters, and I remember enjoying it. It's a movie I gotta give it a rewatch. Maybe this October I will. Anyway, it's based on a screenplay that Robert Rodriguez wrote back in '94, around the time he was doing Desperado, but it wasn't produced at the time because Fox said it would be too expensive to shoot. But now, a couple years ago, they found the script again. They called him and said, "Yeah, we want to make your script. This is where we should have taken the franchise." And I have to say, that is kind of good, although probably a little bit in a different, sort of like this direction, but a little bit different, which I'll explain that after a bit. The plot of the movie is that we get this group of people who are taken from Earth, from various parts, and they find themselves on this alien planet. We got Royce, played by Adrien Brody, who is a mercenary. We got Cuchillo or Yo, I don't know how it's pronounced, played by Danny Trejo. We got a Sputnaz soldier, Nikolai, played by Oleg Taktarov. We got an Israeli defense sniper named Isabella, played by Alice Braga. We got a Revolutionary United Front officer named Mombasa, played by, I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce his first name. I think it's like Mahershalalhashbaz. Anyway, his last name's Ali. Then we got a death row inmate named Stans, played by Walton Goggins. We got a Yakuza enforcer named Hanzo, played by Ozawa Changchien. And we got a doctor named Edwin, played by, of course, by Topher Grace. As you find out through the movie, all are dangerous in their own right, and that's the reason they were chosen. Because we find out that this planet is a game preserve that a certain group of predators use for their hunting. It's never really stated fully whether it's just one tribe of predators or if all different predators, because apparently, as we find out in the movie, there's actually a blood feud, which I'll get at later. But they bring various animals, like we see this one type of alien that is hinted earlier, which is actually based on the one of the original designs for the Predator, which I thought that was a nice little cool thing to throw in there. And then, of course, we see another human later on, played, of course, by Laurence Fishburne, his character Nolan, which I will say I like his character, but the one thing is that it should have been, like Arnold's little cameo in Expendables 1, it should have been a secret, because the way that they did it, showed it in the advertising, made it look like he was going to actually be an important figure in the movie when he's only important for like 10 minutes of the movie. Just like that one thing that's from the very end of the movie that was in the trailer, the money shot that was lying, which that is kind of, which I will say that was BS what they did in the trailer, where they showed Adrien Brody with all the different Predator lasers. That is false freaking advertising, folks, and you wonder why people do this to you? Stuff like that. You had to think of a money shot. Jeez. Anyway, back to the review. As you can guess, they're gonna have to try to get off, and they like the characters in previous movies. They have the big problem of trying to kill the predators, but they also have the problem that since they're off Earth, they can't just stroll out of the forest. They actually have to figure out a way to get off the planet. And of course, another thing is we find out that predators are fighting predators. It's never fully stated because Nolan only mentions it loosely, some kind of blood feud. Because we got the big predators that we actually are the main villains. And then we got the classic Predator played by Derek Mears, who's kind of tied up for most of the movie. and they're supposed to be smaller. It never states what it is. Maybe it's like different breeds of predator, like the smaller ones hunt on Earth, or the bigger ones, or there's the thing, or there's a theory I have that maybe they're outcast predators who did something wrong on a hunt. Maybe still have a small sense of honor, but not as much as the normal predators. I just say that because of the one fight scene that Hanzo has with one of the predators, which I really do like that scene. It kind of reminds me of, I haven't really seen that many Japanese live-action movies, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of, even though I haven't seen the movies, it's kind of homage. It kind of is like a Kill Bill-ish moment. Remember how the sword fights are kind of filmed in Kill Bill? It's kind of filmed in that same sort of way, like a homage to the Japanese sword fighting scenes. Because it kind of, if it wasn't a predator, if it was like another swordsman, it would be like a homage to that. All you gotta do is put in like some Japanese style music. And I like the way that scene was filmed. But that's basically the only time where we see that they have a sense of honor, so that makes me think they have a small sense of honor. Like, oh, he has a bladed weapon? I'll show you a blade fight. And of course I don't mind the fact that the katana didn't break because it's folded steel and it's an old sword, so. Anyway, I think they're probably outcast. My guess is more than likely they're outcast predators who play differently, and that's also where they have the dogs. Which, I don't really mind the dogs. I can see why it might tick some of my friends off that the predators have dogs in the movie, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, they're hunters. Human hunters use dogs. And as we've seen, that the predators, other than the fact that they're using more advanced technology, they do hunt just like humans do. Slowly stalk the prey, go in when you can, you collect trophies. So them using something that's like dogs is not a far cry. And also the little falconer using the robotic falcon thing, that I thought was cool. I mean, it's the next logical step. If you're gonna show them more hunting tools, they don't have any more weapons other than that. They don't have any other weapons. I mean, they got the spear, but that's it. No new toys other than that, which kind of disappointed me. If there's one major flaw that this movie has, is the fact that it is too close to the original film for its own good. I mean, the first time I saw this movie, I'd only seen the original all the way through once, so since I've seen it again, I could say it is too close to the original for its own good. Which, that's the reason why this is, unlike the first two films, this is not a movie I would be able to pop in and watch, all the time. Like, Predator 1 and 2, I can pop them out of sequence or reverse and watch them anytime, just like Alien and Aliens. Whereas Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, I can't. Well, Alien 3 I can, but I usually prefer to when I'm watching all the films. But there's Predator. Those are the type of films that you can just pop in anytime and watch the movie without needing to watch any other films in the series. Whereas this movie is one that maybe you could do that when nothing else is on, but more than likely you just pop it in when you're watching films in a series. I mean, that's the only thing that's probably kept me from that's one of the things that's kept me from watching it again until now, but that was mostly because I was waiting until I reviewed these movies to give the film another watch. But anyway, like I said, too close to the original film for its own good, and I will agree with some of my friends is if you take one scene out of the movie, it's basically a remake of the original movie in style and stuff. I mean, that's the reason that I say that Predator 2 is the better sequel, because it knows it cannot top the original, so it doesn't do the same tone as the original. I mean, it continues some plot points hinted at in the first movie. I mean, like with Gary Busey's character, but it's its own movie. It has its own tone, its own pacing, and it starts off showing you the Predator. I mean, there's a little suspense, but it's mostly because the characters don't know. But throughout the most thing, it doesn't just you see from the point of view of the Predator and then don't see it for a long time. You do see the Predator during its first attack. Well, you see it drop during its second attack that you actually see it physically. It doesn't coddle you until it's actually necessary to show the Predator. This one kind of does that. You don't really see the Predators in this movie until they go into the camp and you see the one tied up. Which, like I said, that is the major problem with the movie. Doesn't mean I hate the movie, but a lack of originality, I said. There's homaging, and then there's blatantly copying, and this is blatantly copying the same tone and stuff. Now, some would say, I know some of my buddies might not like this as much as the AVP films, because I think Efri says now that because of this movie he holds the AVP films in higher regard, which I can see why, but me, I actually like this movie a little bit better than I like the AVP films. And there's one deciding factor with that: the characters. Remember, the characters in the AVP films, other than Charles Bishop Whalen, in the character of Wolf, the Predator, and maybe the one female character to an extent, and of course the character that was supposed to be Keyes' assistant. There's not that really many memorable characters in the AVP films. They're all basically cannon fodder. This movie, our main characters, you know, some of them are going to be cannon fodder, but they are interesting to look at. I mean, we got the Spetsnaz. Of course, some of them are basically based on what they are. I mean, the Spetsnaz guy, you know, in Soviet Russia, you know, he's basically a typical Russian soldier guy. The African Revolutionary United Front officer, what you would expect. The death row inmate, he is interesting. The stuff he says is just funny. Like when he's talking with Edwin at one point, when we get home, I'm gonna get a bunch of cocaine and rape a bunch. Just stuff. When you hear him say stuff like that, you hate the guy, but it's just funny to hear the crap that he says. Convicts say the darndest things. Then, of course, the character of Edwin, throughout the whole movie, you wonder, why the hell is he here? I mean, there's nothing really threatening about him. The death row inmate, you can see why, because he has a shank on him, so you can tell that there's something wrong with him, that he's probably killed people, and that's why he was on death row. But Edwin, you're like, what is with him? Of course, because of Robbie Rod's videos that he was doing on his YouTube page, I had a feeling why Edwin was there, and I'm not going to, without giving any spoilers, I could tell you I was right. Those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The closest thing I'm going to say is that's the reason why they probably had him wear glasses in the promotional shots, because he looks like a certain infamous person that they do make. I'm not going to give away who it is, but they do a little joke about him in Demolition Man. You guys should know what I'm talking about. The Yakuza guy, you know, he's not really a stereotypical Yakuza, and you can tell he probably could be, but he's an interesting character. Doesn't say much, but the way that Changchien, if I'm pronouncing his name right, holds himself, he may get you interested in the character, and that's why I do like that he actually does have the fight with the Predator, that one Predator. And then, of course, Danny Trejo, he's in the movie a little bit. His character's slightly interesting, but also a little bit, you know, stockish. The only, other than that, like I said, Edwin, and then, of course, the character of Isabella, she's sort of interesting, because you wonder what, because it doesn't really give away where she was from, other than she's a combatant, and it makes you wonder what she knows and stuff, because she's the one that actually fills everyone in about the Predator. And without her little exposition, it would basically be a remake of the original movie. And now, of course, we come to Adrien Brody and his character of Royce. Now, there's only one big problem I have with Adrien Brody's performance. His voice. How he talks. Sounds like he's trying to do the Christian Bale Batman voice. I mean, yeah, I sound like I got throat cancer. As we all know, those who could beat cancer are tough. That's basically it. That's basically how his voice is. And Brody, I mean, you're a great actor. You deserve the Academy Award for The Pianist. But talk normally. I would have liked your performance better if you talked normally. That's the problem with his acting. Now, the problem with the writing of the character and him being cast is just the way that the character of Royce goes through the plot. It would have been better if we actually had a guy cast in the role that we know could be in action movies. Like if Danny Trejo had been cast in that role, it would have been a little bit more believable. I mean, if it had been Mickey Rourke cast in the role, it would have been a little bit more believable. It would have been a little bit more believable of why they don't try to kill the guy for what he does, why they end up following him. I mean, because they follow him at first because he says something, but, I mean, just why should they believe him? I mean, we haven't seen Adrien Brody in an action movie, so it's kind of hard for us to see why they would believe him. I mean, he's the right size as most of the soldiers, but it should have been, it's just the way he's written, it feels like more than likely it's a guy who's used to being in movies kind of like that are action oriented. I mean if you could get someone like Mickey Rourke, maybe Rutger Hauer, that would have been cool. Or I don't know, I haven't seen any of his work, but I've heard good things. How about Jeff Speakman? Yeah, those of you guys who know about those guys, what do you think about that? How would you guys have liked if Rutger Hauer or Jeff Speakman had been in the movie? But anyway, like I said, Adrien Brody, other than his voice, his performance didn't really bother me. Other than, of course, the writing standpoint. If they had written this, if it had been me, I would have changed the writing a little bit upon casting Adrien to make it a little bit more believable for the audience. Like make it so that he just recently became a mercenary. that he really wasn't a squad leader. Because like if it was someone like a guy, like I said, that connects to the believable action element, if it's a guy that we believe in an action movie, then we have no problem. Then we can actually believe that the characters would see themselves following him, and they follow him because it's a good idea. But if it's a guy who is kind of more reluctant, and he's like, "Why are you guys following me? I don't know what I'm doing." Put some of the element in that, it would have made the character a little bit more interesting. I mean, we don't even find out the character's name until the end of the movie. Just stuff like that, it would have made the character a little bit more interesting, added more drama to him. Because at sometimes he seems kind of Gary Sue-ish, but you could tell kind of his little arrogance and stuff is kind of his biggest flaw. So he's not really, I wouldn't label him a Gary Sue, but he has some elements of that type of character. And like I said, some of the other characters are stock. But for me, it is a time waster of an action movie. I'm glad I have the bare bones, at least in my collection. Would I buy the other one? No. Would I buy the bigger one? No. Not unless I saw it really cheap, like at a pawn store for like $2. But if someone gave it to me, I'd keep it. But having this one in my collection, it's pretty good. I'm happy to have it in my collection. I mean, it was only a couple bucks, remember? And I do want to watch this few special features that are on it. Now, do I want them to make another movie? If they make another Predator movie, I want it to be... Do not make the same mistakes you made with this one. Make it a pretty good sequel that will live up to the original, but make the tone vastly different and give the Predators more toys. Oh yeah, that reminds me, another problem. I like this fact that there's multiple Predators in here, but the problem with them is that it succumbs a little bit to the same problem that the AVP films do. And I gotta turn the light on now because sun's starting to set, so the light's dimming. And that is that a couple of the Predators die in bad ways. I mean, the first one Predator dies in a bad way. He dies too easily. Second Predator, I can believe his death, even though you're like, that was it. Should have been a little bit more gory to be more believable, which I can give that. And then, of course, the third Predator, the last Predator, is the one that actually gets the best death. And, of course, the classic Predator, too. So, maybe they should have made the deaths a little bit better to make it seem like they're not just being taken out like pansies like the Predators in AVP 1 were. But I will say that the effects for the Predators are badass. I mean, it's KMB. You can't go wrong with them. They did very good Predator effects. But the thing is, this is one thing I forgot to talk about, is that when I first heard about this film, what I thought it was going to be, just based on the various things, how they said when he was talking about how they're going to call him the Super Black Predator, what I thought at first was that there's like, if the classic Predator was going to be the Predator conducting the hunt originally, maybe like with one buddy, and then maybe like the buddy gets killed and then he gets wounded, so he like sends in a message, because I don't think he'd do the self-destruct device on a planet they own. It's not their home planet, but I don't think they do it on a planet they own. And then, of course, the Super Black Predator comes in to gets it, and he comes in to complete the hunt. I thought it was gonna be something like that. Then when I heard the thing about the clan warfare, I thought maybe like the classic Predator was gonna conduct the hunt, and then the Black Predator was gonna come in and crash the hunt, something like that. Then we'd probably get like Predator on Predator warfare with the humans caught in the middle. Now, of course, that's not the movie we got, but that would be, if they do a sequel to it, that would actually be cool for the sequel if you think about it. Maybe bring the Adrien Brody and Braga characters back, maybe a few new characters, like have like one Predator starting to conduct another hunt, and then like some other Predators come to crash, and make it more of like them caught in the middle of a tribal war. It costs a lot of money, but that'd be a kick-ass movie. And then for shits and giggles, bring in Arnold and Glover's characters. Now that would be cool. What's a wolf with his touch? You say that all the time, man. That'd be a cool action movie. You just gotta get the right person to direct it. Anyway, my rating for the movie, honestly, probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I like it better than both AVP films, but because of with all the stuff overall. But it does that one thing about the tone of the movie and the way some of the stuff is written are the biggest flaws that the movie has for me.